Reptiles are great, but some of them don't show the same affection as others. So are you looking for cute and cuddly? Today, we've got you covered. We're going over the top 5 most affectionate reptiles. My name's Adam, this is Frankie. You're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles. Stick around. Okay. Let me be clear here. Reptiles are never gonna be as affectionate as a dog or a cat in almost every case. They don't really love you the way that your dog does because your dog truly really loves you. These guys love food and warmth and maybe climbing perches like your head. So that is what I mean by affection. I don't mean to break your hearts, but that's the reality of it. So let's just start off with number 5. Fiji banded iguanas. Okay, I'll keep this short because I know I talk about them a lot, and if you're in the US, you can't have one anyway. But in part 1, because this is part 2 if you didn't know, we talked about cyclura, which are rock iguanas and rhino iguanas and things that I can't keep here in Canada, so haha. Now this is a Fiji banded iguana, and this is about as big as they get. Now obviously they're the most beautiful iguanas that you could ever own. Like, I don't think that there is any comparison or competition or anyone who's gonna fight me on that, but because they're so much smaller, they're easier to keep. You can keep these in a 4-foot by 4-foot enclosure and it's a mansion for them rather than, an iguana is gonna need something that's gonna be much, much larger because they get to 5 feet, right? A green iguana is what I'm talking about. So Fiji banded iguanas just make better pets in almost every aspect. And as you can see, he's just chill. He'll sit on my shoulder, he'll be completely fine. I mean, he is looking around a little bit, but that's just because he's off the ground and I've been away for almost a week and he's not been out of his enclosure, so it's kind of like a fun thing for him. They are herbivores, which means they're gonna eat things like vegetables, a little bit of fruits. They will eat a little bit of animal protein, like a cricket or 2 a week, something like that. But either way, pretty darn simple, pretty darn easy. One of my favorites to keep. And if I'm looking around the reptile room and I'm just kind of hanging out, this is the one that I take out most of the time if it's not diamond. But no bearded dragons on today's list because they were number 1 on the last list. That video is up here, by the way, if you want to watch it after this one. Number 4, we're talking about spotted pythons. So if we're going to talk about things that a lot of people don't... Okay, froggies, you're not going to make the list. You're not affectionate. If we're going to talk about things that most people don't know about or don't have and kind of keep it more interesting than corn steaks and everything else, we're gonna have to talk about spotted pythons because in my opinion, of all the pythons out there, besides maybe one that's gonna be on the list a little bit later, these are really affectionate, really easy to care for, and really fun to handle. Now, what I love about spotted pythons is a little bit different than more lethargic pythons. You know which one I'm talking about, that's coming up in the list. These guys will move around a little bit more, but they seem like they really enjoy it. They're gonna try to get to the highest point because spotted pythons are a semi-arboreal python from Australia, and that's the added bonus too. You can keep these guys basically everywhere unless, of course, you have a no pythons allowed bylaw in your area, which is pretty uncommon, but they do exist some places. And they're small. We're talking spotted pythons usually top out around 4 feet. There are gargantuan ones that might get to 5 feet or whatever, but they're skinny. And then of course, if you want something that's even smaller than that, in the same genus, Antaresia, there's pygmy pythons, which although I don't actually have myself in my collection, they're gonna top out around 2 feet. So we're talking about super duper tiny snakes. Now, these are pythons, so they're gonna be able to constrict and hold on to you, and that's like the affection thing to me. The way they hold on to me, I'm not worried about them getting cantankerous. I just think that it's cool that they hold on to you and it doesn't feel scary because they're not big enough to be so strong that it's gonna make you feel very nervous at all. And that's why I think that they are a little bit cooler than some of the other snakes because the way that they hold on to you makes it feel like, oh, I'm getting a little hug, but it's not so big that it feels like it might be a danger. These animals are not going to be dangerous to you in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, the only time that they're going to bite you in most cases is if they think you are food. But that's great because they have high food drives, which means that if you get one, you're not gonna be wasting mice or rats or whatever you feed them because in most cases, they're gonna eat every time and they don't need huge enclosures. Spotted pythons are some of my favorites. Okay, number 3, and just because they're common doesn't mean that it's any less true. We're talking about ball pythons. Now I'll keep this one rather short too because everyone knows what a ball python is, and if you don't, well, we did a really cool video that you can watch right here all about them. Now ball pythons are one of the best size snakes for most people because this is a full-size male. Now, females might get a little bit bigger, but this is actually kind of big for a male. He's about, 4.5 feet, something like that. Females can get up to 5.5 or 6 feet for really big ones, but a 5-foot animal is pretty standard for a female. Now, of course, males might only get to 3 feet. So what does this have to do with affection? Well, these guys, they're gonna be kind of like rocks. I can put this guy around my neck and he's just gonna kind of chill there for the entire day if I let him. He's not gonna really move all that much. He's not interested in moving all that much. Now, of course, that's because when you take them out, they're going to be a little bit colder than their natural environment. And in general, when you have an animal that's out that's gonna like it around 85 degrees, and then you have them in a room that's 75, they're gonna slow down quite a bit. Now, this is not to say that this is dangerous or a bad thing at all. It's just that, well, sometimes the affection that you see is the calmness, and with snakes like this, they are very calm, especially if you get them out of their enclosure and they're not heated up to their, I don't know, I guess hottest temperature or most preferable temperature that they would be in their enclosure. Something I don't talk about a lot, and most people don't, but now you know. At an expo, when you take something out and it's like really slow and lethargic and it seems really cool, and then you get it home and it's not like that, that's sometimes why. And in my opinion, chillness in a snake is part of the affection, because I can just stay here like this. He doesn't want to get away from me. He's just kind of hanging out, no worries at all. And he's not cruising, right? So I said with the spotted python, they're always cruising, but they still want to be on you. These guys, they're not going to be moving around too much, and they're just going to be on you. So they're not trying to get away. And in my opinion, if we're talking about affection in snakes and reptiles, that's kind of the name of the game. Do they want to be on you, or are they gonna tolerate you? Because in general, if we're being real, that is really what it is. They are tolerating you rather than jumping out to get you. Now, there are some Schneider skinks we talked about in the last video, and they literally jump out to be on top of me, but I think that's more of a warmth and climbing thing than a I love you dad type of thing, you know? Ball python's obviously one of the best pets out there, but if you want something that's gonna be just super chill, super calm, there's really nothing that's gonna beat a ball python, very few, but we're only at number 3, which means there's 2 more. So let's talk about number 2, Tegus. Number 2, Tegu. I didn't mean to make it run, but it did. And the reason that I say this is because they're a big, comfortable lizard. Now, I've got a Tegu, Mushu, who hibernates, well, brumates is what it's called, forever and ever and ever. She's still brumating right now. I have a box of dirt. That's basically what I have right now. And I love Tegus, and they get big enough that they're about 4 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, something like that. So one of the bigger lizards that you'll ever be able to keep in captivity that isn't a monitor lizard anyway. And because of that, they kind of, if you have them socialized, which I should mention, all of these things are if they're well socialized. Of course, there's gonna be skittish animals or things like that, and those are not what I'm talking about at all. So if you have a Tegu that's well socialized from the beginning, from a baby, because they come out, you know, this big, pretty small, and they get to really big, then you're gonna have an animal that's gonna want to be around you. They're gonna come out of the enclosure at you a lot of the time. Really, frogs? And when they come out of the enclosure, it's kind of like a dog, because they might be fast if they really want to be, but most of the time they're pretty small. They don't mind being around you. They're just going to kind of chill out and hang out with you, and they'll get the scratches on the head, and they'll literally act like a dog when you scratch them, kind of like a rock iguana. You can scratch them under the chin and stuff like that. And then, of course, they're food motivated like a dog too. So if you have a bowl of food, and a lot of the time it's kind of like a mixture, not like a dog food, but a mixture of foods, they're gonna come out, and then you can hang out with them like that too. And a lot of the time when they come out of the enclosure, I mean, they're just gonna wanna be in your lap because you're warm. And a lot of these Tegus, because of the warmth, because of they aren't afraid of you, because of they're well socialized, it almost feels like they love you and it's an affectionate thing. Well, just like a dog, right? When I'm on the couch watching the hockey game or whatever else, my dog comes and cuddles with me, and I think Tegus oftentimes act very similar to that. And number 1 most affectionate reptile for this list, let's go back to our roots, the early days of WWR. This is Littlefoot. Before there was a Diamond or really anybody else who sat on my shoulder for the episodes, it was Littlefoot, going back 4.5 years. The first leopard gecko I ever hatched. And let me tell you, well socialized. If you get a leopard gecko to socialize an animal, there are very few things on this earth as easy to socialize as a leopard gecko. They will sit there, they will chill with you. You don't have to worry about them running away too much, and that is my favorite thing about leopard geckos, because they're beautiful, they're cute, they're fantastic, but also if you want to handle them, they're handleable. Because there's a lot of really cute geckos out there, right? Knobtail geckos is a great example, but they're not going to be as interested in hanging out with you as a leopard gecko. Small, very affectionate in terms of the affection that we're talking about today. Things that you don't have to worry about are being bit by one, and if you do, it feels like sandpaper, basically, and they're very unlikely to do so. They're easy to care for, they don't take a lot of money to care for, they have a smaller enclosure, you can take them out all the time. Make sure you keep your dogs away, by the way, from all of these. I get that question a lot that I don't address. Can I have them out with my dog? No, your dog should never meet your reptiles. Don't do that. It might be cute on TikTok, but what you don't see are all the takes where the dog eats the leopard gecko. So don't do that. But a great animal if you just want to chill out and hang out. I mean, we've been filming this for I don't know how many minutes, 5 minutes, this segment anyway. She's barely moved and she's warmed up, right? She is as warm as she's gonna get. She was sitting on her hot spot. Kind of a perfect animal if you don't want a bearded dragon, but you want something similar, smaller, that will just sit on your shoulder like you see in the videos. Get a leopard gecko. And there you go. Those are your top 5 most affectionate. Please let me know in the comments section what you think are the most affectionate reptiles, and maybe we'll do a part 3 if this video gets enough likes. I want to say thanks if you hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps this channel. And as always, a special thanks to the Patreon supporters. We just added 2 new tiers, which are going to include things like one-on-one sessions, so we get to talk face-to-face on Zoom or Skype or however you want to do it. You get extra perks, things like that. And of course, you get discounts on merch, shoutouts, all sorts of stuff for as little as $1 a month. All that in the description below, and that's it. Because I do videos twice a week, that means I'll see you on Monday or Thursday or whenever see you in the next one.